You guys, there's nothing wrong with wanting everything. You want a savage physique, you want a psycho mindset, you want the most elite mental performance, and you want to go and blow up your business and do shit that you've never seen anyone do before. You can do all of it. I'm fed up of all these people saying, oh, you can only focus on your body in one phase and you can only focus on your business in another phase of life. It's just all a load of bullshit. They should all grow in harmony: body, mental performance, and business. This is what I'm going to show you guys today, how to actually harmonize all three, and especially how we manage that through nailing the nutrition side, which is where 99% of people fuck up. Let's just take, for instance, how you want to be training, right? I always tell my guys, look, you want to be training hypertrophy style 5-6 times a week at a volume where you can just keep rolling and rolling and rolling and just build the aesthetics you want. There's no wasted fatigue on the body with overtraining. There's no wasted cardio. It's just nice and simple hypertrophy style training where you've got volume in all the body parts you need to go and build the aesthetic you want. But we need to pair with that nutrition, because that's how we're going to have the business blowing up from the mental performance and the clarity that you need. Because most people obviously go to extremes. I've done all of this myself. I've gone complete bodybuilder physique style avenue in the past. My origin with my fitness coaching company started with like photo shoot prep, and fuck me, you can get in the most savage shape, right? But here you do lose it, right? And this is why I understand people saying it's one or the other. And then I've also gone the other way, where I've gone keto and I've gone full carnivore, and I've just been eating ribeye steaks and eggs every day, and it's unbelievable. But you get very soft. And yes, you may feel sharp. You can wake up at 3 a.m. with no carbs in the body and you feel unbelievable, genuinely do. But over time, after a couple of months of doing it, your physique loses that edge. It loses that sharpness, like especially when you're training, there's no fullness, there's no pump. And what I then find is that you then may feel high frequency because of how sharp you are, but you lose that, like you lose that confidence within it, like your presence and your size and your fullness. And you can then start having low frequency thoughts about how you look. And we don't want that. You need to look great. You don't need to look like a bodybuilder. I'm not saying that, right? When you've got your top off, you've got a pump on, you want to look sick. You want to be around 8 to 11% body fat is where most high level entrepreneurs typically situate these days. And I'm going to show you how we do that, because let's take for granted right now, you're already in decent shape. You've got a decent amount of muscle mass and your body fat's not crazy high or low. If you're not at that phase yet, I recommend what I would call a priming phase and then an extremist phase. Like, it will play in your favor to go through a psychopathic cut or a psychopathic bulk if you just hate your body that much and it causes you that lower frequency. Even with the less optimal nutrition strategies, that will still serve you great to just having maybe a 16-week period of extremism with building muscle mass or shredding off body fat. But let's take for granted right now, you've already been in the gym for years. You've already been training. You know what you're doing to a decent extent, but now you want that fine tuning. You want that top 1%. You want to sharpen the physique a bit, and you want to sharpen the mental performance. And I'm going to show you how we use nutrition now to do that. So how I think about it is we need to optimize, first of all, macronutrients. We need to get your proteins, your carbs, and your fats perfect. How we do this is, I'd effectively, through a priming phase, we would set up your nutrition where you have around 1 grams of protein per pound of lean body mass. So let's say you were 220 pounds, but your body fat was a little bit high, maybe 200 pounds, right? Or 210 pounds. And I would have that as net protein. What I mean by that is you would have protein in your meal plan. Protein goes in first, and you may build out your 4 meals or 3 meals from just lean protein sources. So like chicken, egg, steak, fish, what doesn't really matter, whey isolate, hydrolyzed ideally. And effectively you have your 1 gram of protein per pound of lean body mass initially from just protein, with none of the carbs or fats in the nutrition plan just yet. So therefore, we know we've got the perfect amount of protein, And that doesn't get changed anywhere in any phase. We just keep that net amount of protein at your amount of lean body mass. Because then when we put the carbs and fats in, your protein will increase, but because of trace fats and protein. I always base it off net, because let's say we come into a deficit and we're pulling food down, what happens is your protein starts coming down. We need the perfect amount of protein from full amino acid profile nutrition, like the meat and the fish and the dairy and eggs, etc. We need that in the nutrition plan, staple the whole time, and you never have to change it. That's really important. So I start with getting the net protein. From here, what I do is in a priming phase, I will start pretty close to 1 gram of fats per kilo of lean body mass again. So let's say you are 100 kilos, but maybe 90 if you were pretty shredded. I may start with 90 grams of fats. Then the rest of the calories would come from carbohydrates. So let's say your maintenance calories in a priming phase, which is where we start, is 3,000 calories, and your proteins and your fats with that formula I've just told you comes to 2,000 calories, and we've got 1,000 left. All I would do is 1,000 remaining divided by 4, because 4 calories per gram of carbohydrates, and then you would have 250 grams of carbohydrates with this fats and with this protein. That's typically how I would set up a priming phase for anyone. Doesn't matter if you're going to go into the extreme phase or if you're a pretty high level guy and you're going to go from priming into a performance phase where we sharpen up and we recomp the physique and just really tap into that peak mental performance. So pretty much all of you guys need to set up your priming phase that way. And I would run 2 to 4 weeks in this period. And effectively, you're just going to be dialing in your daily process, getting extremely consistent with these nutritional inputs, with your training, with your sleep, with your supplementation, with your hydration. So your body is finding a nice baseline, whereas before you've probably been a little bit like this, even if on the whole it's been pretty good. From here now, once we've got that in your priming phase and we've got the total calories, total macros around maintenance, what I would then look at is how many meals in the day. Now, as an entrepreneur or as a high-level business guy, we then need to look at what's actually going to be sustainable for you. How many meals are you actually going to want in the day? Maybe usually 3 to 4, like 3 solid meals, and then maybe more of like a light meal works really well. Sometimes just 3. I think when you go into the more bodybuilder 5, 6, 7, there's just too many meals coming in, and it's wasted time that you don't need. Even if you're like me and you've got a chef or you have food delivered, it's still just wasted time. You want to be productive. So I think it's just really good to have 3 little blocks in your calendar that are the same time every day, which means we can be very precise and predictable with where your energy is going to be, and we're not wasting too much time. Kind of just the same philosophy with training. 45 minutes in the gym every day, that's all we need, and we can build a lot of muscle mass, we can lose body fat, and we just need 3 to 4 meals a day. Then we want to pick and build our nutrition plan to these macros we've built out in the priming phase from virtually all whole food. I don't mind using like a hydrolyzed whey. If you don't respond even well to that, even though that is the purest form of whey isolate, sometimes a vegan whey, this can really help hit that protein target, hit that net protein target in the setup without pushing fats above that 1 gram per kilo. The issue if you go above the 1 gram per kilo, which typically is exactly what happens when you go very low carb diet or carnivore, keto, etc., is that when fats go that high, carbs have to come so low, and then your brain loses its edge, but you physically definitely lose your edge. That fullness goes when you're training, your confidence drops, and we don't want that. So we want to basically keep protein sources as lean as possible, but stuff like eggs, maybe a couple of 100 grams of ribeye a day works, depending on your total calories, like your initial body mass at the start, which is going to equate to how many calories you get in your priming phase. We would run this then for 2 to 4 weeks, just no updates, just complete running the blueprint, getting consistent. You know this like your business. It's not about putting something really high level in place and then you go and destroy it all and you need to tweak it in 4 days and we're going to just go fucking spiraling. No, we're emotionally stable people. We're going to set up, we're going to run 2 to 4 weeks on a blueprint, pretty much the same nutrition. All I would then do is get very good in those 4 weeks, even though the calories and macros may stay the same, where we put those. So once we've got the food sources we like, we respond best to, they don't give us brain fog, so like no seed oils and stuff like that. I then work with my clients and on myself. I'm very good at getting, right, where do we want those macronutrients to come in the day? So protein, I like to be dispersed pretty evenly across your 3 or 4 meals. Carbs and fats we need to manipulate. So if you're someone like me who does a lot of deep work in the morning before 1 p.m., I typically have a low carb, moderate fat, high protein, something like a smoothie in the morning, which isn't gonna take anything away from me mentally. I even go for a smoothie because it's not even the macros, it's the digestion power. I don't need energy in my stomach, which is taking it away from my brain. It can't be in 2 places at once. So I actually start with something light, moderate carb, moderate fats, moderate to low carb even in the morning, but high protein. And then once I've done the deepest work block, by around 1 p.m., I go moderate to higher carb, moderate to higher fats, and then again, high protein. And then in the evening, I usually just have everything maxed out. Higher carb, higher protein, higher fats. I just make sure it's at least a couple of hours before bed so I can sleep without being on a full stomach, and therefore I can recover in my sleep and wake up feeling really fresh. If you get your last meal in and it's a big meal, a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of my clients who are very high level guys, they will typically have their biggest meal before bed. Like they won't have it, for example, midday because they need cognitive power. They want to feel fresh, they want to feel sharp. So we'll always do the bigger meal in the evening. Sometimes that might be just instead of meal plan, because I'm a big fan of meal plans, guys, just run the same thing every day, no decision fatigue. Just, it's like a blueprint you'd have with your business. You shouldn't be deciding what you're doing every day. You should just be running a blueprint. The only one where you can negotiate a little bit on that is maybe that evening meal. Because if you're having dinner with your partner, some people, or if you've got kids, you may want to have a slightly different meal in that evening around 6 p.m., 7 p.m. if you're going to bed at like 9. And you would just hit a macro target. So if you've got 3 meals, it might be meal plan to macros, and then just the macros. Or you could run meal plan on all of them. That's what typically works the best. And I would, like I said, I would run the priming phase 2 to 4 weeks, and then you want to transition into a performance phase. This is where you're going to build even more muscle mass. It's where you're going to be able to lose more body fat depending on which way you want to go. How I set up a performance phase depends on the client's calendar effectively. So if we've got a guy and he's like right now it's, what's the date? 28th of November, Black Friday. Okay. Most of my high level clients, we've been dieting for the last 8 weeks, raising their frequency, still in a performance phase. But how I define a performance phase is we're manipulating just under and over the maintenance. It's not that extremism like this, which is necessary if you're just a beginner, let's say, with fitness, and just getting back in healthy, great shape and building a foundation that you feel confident with is very important. But like I said, if we're at a point where we're refining, we're finding our edge here, we're finding our edge here, we're going just below and just above maintenance. The guys I work with in busy periods of the year where, like, especially stuff like e-com or traders, when calendars are going to be, they need a lot of decision power. We usually diet because your frequency is going to raise. You're going to be more dialed in on your process, right? How you do one thing is how you do everything. You're going to find more clarity. You're going to have less food in your body. You're going to be sharper. And then when we come out of that, usually in about 2 weeks time from now, mid-December, I'll taper them back to the top side of a performance phase where instead of building a little bit of tissue and losing body fat, so we're still getting closer to the end goal of at all times in a performance phase, you are building tissue. But we can set up a performance phase so you build a bit of tissue but lose body fat, or we can set up a performance phase so you build quite a lot of tissue and you maintain body fat / gain a little bit. They're the only 2 real things. Once you've primed the body, they're the only 2 phases you should have. You shouldn't be having big bulks, loads of muscle mass, loads of body fat, and then extreme diets, losing muscle, losing body fat. The goal is always we build a little bit of muscle. Now, do we want to edge in the body fat and sharpen up at the same time? Or do we want to push muscle mass a little bit more where we might not need as much brain power in the year? That's how I would go about it. So total macros, start off at maintenance, and then we're going to go into a slight deficit or a slight surplus. We set up protein to 1 gram of protein per pound of lean mass. That stays the same year round unless you've built significant amounts of muscle mass, maybe once you've gained another 5 kilos, and then we might change it a bit. Fats between 35, 40 grams of fats between that figure and 1 gram per kilo. So let's say someone's 100 kilo, you're going to be between 35 grams of fats, ideally 40 if we can, depending on your weight. Lighter guys down to 35, heavier guys 40, 45, and then up to that range of 1 gram per kilo. That's the line really where we can keep hormones dialed, but we can manipulate carbs as high as possible within the macronutrient structure to still build as much tissue as possible. We don't just want to be high protein, high fat, no carb. We want fats to be focused, to have hormones optimized. We need protein, obviously, but we need carbs for also the brain, but training, performance, and building tissue. Very important you get these set up. And then the second focus to that, once you've got that built into a meal plan, is where do we put those macros in the day? Where do we time our meals? This is going to be completely different for everybody. Myself, I go smoothie 8 a.m. before a 9 a.m. till 1 p.m. work block. Then I go 1 to 1:30 p.m., moderate, solid amount of food, and then I load food in the evening around 7 p.m. and then go to sleep at 9. That works for me. On top of that, I don't have any here, but water is extremely important, and getting our hydration in, because even if you've got the best food, even if you've got the best supplements, we need the body hydrated. So typically most men are going to need 4 to 6 liters of water. I'm in my house in Bali at the moment, so I try and hit slightly higher windows just because it's a little bit more of a humid climate. Electrolytes are actually one of the best supplements that you'll actually really notice. Don't run for supplements if you don't have your nutrition absolutely fine-tuned to the screws, right? They won't do anything. But once you are fine-tuned to the screws, you're going to become so high frequency, you're going to be in such a flow state, so sharp, predictably, every single day. Then when you put in those supplements like electrolytes, you fucking know. When you put in supplements like lion's mane, taurine, alpha GPC, there's all sorts of stuff these days. L-tyrosine is another one I use. These supplements really go well with, I don't have a coffee right now, but they go really well with coffee. Nicotine, I use a bit of nicotine, depending on the work block I'm doing. And caffeine and nicotine drive me up. L-tyrosine, taurine, lion's mane, they just keep me like this. Lion's mane actually has long-term benefits as well as just on the day you take it in that hour window. And from here, guys, then you just need to make it a lifestyle. You got to stop getting so emotionally connected to huge big cuts, huge big bulks, and need to change my foods, and I need different food every day, and I need more. Like, you've got to be a pretty cold, emotionally stable person as a high-level entrepreneur. So build it right, build it once, and then on a weekly basis, depending on how your body's responding, it's fine-tunes. So, for example, if my clients check in with me on a Monday, and we run our private call, I will be like, right, how's the body looking? What's the scale weight saying? How well have you executed? Where's your brain been at? Have you had any crashes at certain times? We might make a slight refinement, and then we don't look at it again for another week. It's micro refinements. You don't build an F1 car and then destroy it after a few days. You build the F1 car once, high level, but then you may change the tire pressure very slightly. You may change the aerodynamics extremely slightly for these fine margins. And that's why now I'm at the point where I'm just so crystal clear and sharp every day, 365 days a year. And if anyone couldn't have gotten to this position, it was me. Like years ago when I used to train for just purely physique, I used to be wiped out. I couldn't work more than an hour a day. Like genuinely, I just could not focus. And then I tried carnivore, but then I just hated how I looked. I hated how I trained, despite feeling high energy. And now I've just got it in a way over the last couple of years where it's just, everything's just absolutely nailed. So you've got to make it a lifestyle, guys. You've got to make it a lifestyle. You've got to get very stable with it and just lock in. Go psycho with it. You know, everything you want, you can have it. Don't listen to any of the simps that say you can't build the body, you can't build the business at the same time. You've got to understand that your body is the engine that's behind your business. The more, like, when you're setting up your nutrition, when you're setting up your training, when you're setting up your daily process, you have to do it in a way which makes you not just more competent aesthetically, but it has to make you a more competent individual mentally. And that's what I'm doing right now with my stuff and with my client stuff. How can we make you the most competent person? Anyone that says, oh, fitness doesn't matter. It's not about how good do you look. That's just a side effect of us working on the operating system that's going to make you feel high frequency, make you be predictable, make you be high performance mentally every day, full of energy. You will just, as a byproduct, have a great physique. That's how you got to think about it. Your body is the tool that's going to get you exactly where you want to be. It's your number one priority. Most people think they've got business problems. Usually they've got 99.9% of the time, they've got a personal problem. A lot of people have more time than they think. They just lack energy. They lack execution. This is one of the largest parts of your life that you can take full control over. All right? Take control of it. Make your operating system physically and mentally the most competent version of yourself, and just run it, and just keep running it, and keep twisting those screws very slightly for fine refinements. And it just snowballs. You get to a state where you are so high frequency. If you just tapped out of it for one day, you're like, oh my God, I feel awful. But that's where most people are living daily. They just don't understand because they've never been so high. This isn't an overnight quick fix. This is how to live as a high performance entrepreneur. This is how you got to build your lifestyle. No emotion to it. You've just got to do what's best and be a machine. Let's go, guys.